Greetings, fellow Kerbonauts! Nerdy Spaceman here, and for another installment of A Beginner's Guide to Kerbal Space Program. And in this episode, we are going to continue our docking mission. We already have, as you can see here, we already have the Landsmark 3 up in orbit with a scientist in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and launch another Landsmark 3 and throw that in orbit as well. With the other new scientists. So, Landsmark 3, get in our new scientist, and let's launch. So, the flight's going to be almost identical as the previous one, except for we're going to set ourselves in a much lower orbit. We don't need the wiggle room, we need to be lower. And another reason why we're going to set ourselves to a lower orbit is because when you're closer to the planet, you orbit faster than you normally would. So, I'll show that in a second. But first, let's just get some air. Same thing as before, launching up, get to about 100 meters per second, tilt over to about 5 degrees, wait for the prograde marker to catch up, and then hit the prograde button. Simple, easy, straightforward. Alright, so, now let's explain why we need to be in a lower orbit. This one, for one, is really high up there. It's very much high up there. And what you'll notice is that it's a mostly perfectly circular orbit. It looks like it's circular. It's changing a little bit, but not by much. So this is a circular orbit. Moon's orbit is a circular orbit. So it's two circular orbits, notably far apart from each other, but they're essentially on the same plane in the same place. The speed required to keep this one in orbit is 2,000 meters per second, 2,009.5 meters per second. The speed required to keep the moon in orbit is only 542.5 meters. So you need less speed to get you there. Alright, there we go. Must not forget that I am still flying. So yeah, that is how we get into orbit. So the reason that's happening is that, like Copernicus's law from before, you had the when you have an orbit that's really wonky, the periapsis is always the fastest and the apoapsis is always the slowest. And that's true, that holds true when you're closer and farther away from the gravitational source. So if you want to stay in a perfectly circular orbit, you have to have a much higher speed to fight off that gravitational pull than if you had to be farther away. So what that means is if we launch and we get lower orbit, we'll be catching up, always catching up to this Lance. And that's what we want. We want to catch up to this one. So we're just going to go ahead and fly and try to get there. So again, flying like we normally would, making sure our orbit is still going up. There it is. What you're looking for is the T-minus number, and that should be going up. There it is, T45, and it's going to go to 46, and so on. So we're good to go. We might not have launched the most efficiently because there was a bit of a delay between when I ran out of fuel for the bottom stage. I was too busy talking, but we should be fine. We got plenty of fuel on the stage, so everything should be just quite alright. There it is, T48, so it's still counting up, and that's good. So now we just wait. Now, as we're launching up and we're picking up speed, this thing is still, gaining distance away from us. You can set it as our target, and it'll tell you that it's actually increasing in distance. You can see the distance is growing. That's quite alright, because when we eventually do get into orbit, we're definitely going to be moving a lot faster than this one, so we will eventually be catching up. But that's going to take some time because we do actually have to get into space. Here we are, still pushing, still coming strong. We're almost left the atmosphere, and we're almost reaching the speed we needed. Now what we want to put it into is, I'm guessing, about 150. That's what I'm going to do, something. So it's still low, but not too low. I can even do lower than that. Let's do something like 80 or 90. Like that'll be fine too. But let's do something a little bit closer. Let's do 100. So we put it at 100,000 meters, and we'll stop there. So here we are, catching up, and we're at 100,000 meters. Okay. It's slowly on now, but we will be just fine. And then we add our maneuver node. And you can tell we're already moving faster than we normally would be. So here we are. Here we go. That's our maneuver node. We're waiting to get into space so we can turn. But you can see now that we're already catching up. The distance is going down, so we're already catching up. Just in this point in time, the necessary speed to get us up in space. We're losing speed constantly, but that's quite alright because now we're going to hit space. There it is, 69, And then here it is, 70, and we're in space. Okay, hit the maneuver node, cue the music, and let's warp to our next maneuver node. Only a 7-second burn, so T-minus, I don't know, 3 or 4 seconds, whichever one. So manually time warp to where we need to be. There it is, and max thrust, and that should push us all the way up to orbit. And here we go. And the flip happens. Okay. Now what we do is we're catching up. While we're catching up, I'm going to do a quick little adjustment here. So again, we want to fix our inclination relative to these two orbits. You can see here that they're off a little bit, and it's going to definitely help to increase that. So the descending node, so we've got to ascend to cancel that out. There it is. Cancel that out. Come on now, gentle. Okay, we're going to warp to that maneuver too. You know what, I'm going to go ahead and point at the node. Actually, when we stop time warping. And we're still catching up to our target, so that's good. Okay, here we are. And time warp, it's a 1-second burn, only 30 meters per second, so it's very low delta V. So let's get over there. Okay, and here we go. 3, 2, 1, and burning, and we're good to go. Alright, so 0, perfect. So we're catching up, right? We don't want to pass them, that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. So what we eventually want to do is we want to add prograde so that we can raise our orbit and actually have an intercept. Just like when we're doing docking with the moon and in Minmus and stuff, we want to have an intercept. And what it's going to do is it's going to give us 2 points. First intercept and then second intercept. So we're going to go jump past it and then come back down and then intercept again. Like if you add more prograde, you can see it's more defined here. See that? So here we intercept, and at that point, that's how close we are. And we go up, and we come down, and then again, this is how close we are. But we don't want that much. We want it as close as possible. We want it nice and tight. We want to bring these 2 points as close next to each other as possible. Something like that. Now we play with the timing. So you grab it, and you move it until there it is. See that? They're on top of each other. Here you can move it again, and there they are, and here we go. Now they're on top of each other. We do the orange one here, and it's 0.8 kilometers. So 800 meters is when we'll get our closest intercept. And that's really close. So that's good. I'm going to go ahead and stick with that one. And it's only a 4-second burn, and we have to burn at this point. So we're catching up, and once we get to a specific distance from one another, then we burn prograde, and then we eventually intercept in that point. So here it is. Okay, so here we are. This is the distance we need. And we only need to change our speed by a little bit. We're about 400,000 meters apart from each other. We need to change our speed just a little bit. So here we go. 4-second burn, go. Okay, I'm going to cut it early. And then I'm going to add a little bit until there it is. There it is, 0.5. That's about as close as I could get. Oh, 0.3. Oh, 0.4 again. So there it is, 0.4. Is the best I can do. So at this point, what we can do is we can go ahead and warp here and watch as we get closer. So we're still moving faster, but we're also going up. We're gaining altitude and losing speed. So eventually we're going to intercept, and here we are. There it is. We're really coming up to each other, and we're going to intercept soon. Now, we can turn on to this mode, and we can actually see each other. There it is. It's 10 kilometers away. And this mode has turned from orbit, there's orbit, surface, and now target. So relative to that target, this is our speed. We're gaining at 122 meters per second at our target. What we want to do is we want to point retrograde, meaning we want to slow down relative to the target, meaning it's coming towards us. So we want to burn away from it. And we want to quickly, oh, there it is, that's the last of my fuel. Get rid of that. Easy with the gimbal there. Calm down. Alright, there we go. And there we go. Now we're slowly bringing our speed down so that it's closer. And you'll see it'll actually reduce this. As you see, these get closer and closer. And our speed is reducing. So right now they're 4 kilometers out. And we're gaining. So here it is. We get closer and closer. Our target, there it is, within 2 kilometers. And now what I'm going to do is, now that we're getting pretty close, There it is. It starts to count down in the thousands of meters, and now we're in the hundreds of meters. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and kill the rest of my energy so that we're moving relatively zero towards our target. See, it's catching up. And there it is. Now we're moving barely 10 meters per second towards our target. And then what I'm going to do is burn slowly until we get about, 500 meters. Now you want to do this slow. You don't want to be going full speed towards your target. You want to keep this under control. You want your target speed to pretty much be 0 at all times. Oh, there it is. So now we've gotten close. Oh god, okay, I pulled away. Now I'm moving away from my target. I hit the Z key instead of the X key and I'm flying away. That's quite fine. So I gotta catch up now to my target. And we're losing speed. There, so now we're moving back towards our target. And then turn around again. So you see our speed is getting close. And let's time warp a little bit. First I'm gonna go ahead and open my radiators. There it is. Solar panels. We need those eventually. We've got plenty of batteries, so I'm going to turn on my lights as well. There we go. Now here we are. We're catching up. I'm going to go ahead and time warp until we can get on top of each other. Something like under 500 meters. And once I get under 500 meters, I'm going to go and try to intercept. So there it is, catching up, and they're coming up a little bit above us. It's going to be fine. So there it is, 500 meters. Okay, this is a good number. Now I'm going to go and cancel off the rest of my energy. So there it is. 0 meters per second. So we're now not moving apart from each other. So I need to point at my target. I can do this manually. Point there. Or I can just click the target. But it's grayed out because we're literally not moving fast enough. These modes only work when you're moving more than 1 meters per second. So here we are. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of speed. And here we are. Now you see our prograde is right on top of our target, meaning we're moving directly at our target. So here we are. We're catching up to our target. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to probably time warp. Now, we don't want to be going very fast. Slow and steady. That's exactly why you want to do this. Always slow, always steady. In space, it takes days to do docking. So lucky for us, we have time warp. But you never want to go fast. Never. It's always way too dangerous to go fast for this stuff. So we'll see. We're actually moving towards each other, and this is starting to deviate. We're pointing at our target, but the direction in which we're moving is starting to deviate. So we'll correct for that with the RCS thrusters. And I'll show you that in just a moment. So right now what I'm doing is I'm time warping to get closer to our target so we can possibly illuminate it with our lights. Well, looks like we don't need to. The sun's come up and it's illuminated all of us. Okay, so here we are. It's within 100 meters and we're catching up pretty quickly now. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn on my RCS and push the N key, and that slows us down. The N pushes us, if you can see the thrusters, is pushing us away from that. And I'm trying to kill our energy. There it is. 0.2 should be fast enough. Again, now I'm pointing at our target, and I'm using the J, K, L, and I keys. They're like the arrow keys, like the WASD keys, and they throw little tufts of gas, monopropellant, into different directions. And this is what happens. It adjusts the thing. So what we want to do is we want to adjust it so that the prograde is pointing directly at the target marker. So it means we're moving towards the target, and we're pointing towards the target at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the bracket keys. This is going to flip over to the other view, and we can then open the panels like we did with the other one. There it is. Turn on our lights. Select this as our target, and also do the same thing, pointing directly at it. Turn on our RCS thrusters, and adjust so that we're going straight at it. Then we can flip back again, and here we are. We're moving real close to each other, and we're doing minor adjustments to make sure that we're pointing at our targets and also moving in exactly that direction. So pointing at and moving towards our target. So we want both of those markers to be directly on top of each other. Now if we want to speed things up, we can push the H key, and that pushes us forward a little bit. Little tufts of gas there. 0.5 meters. There you go. Nice and steady. Increase the speed a little bit. And here we are. If I zoom in a little bit, this is us. We're coming in for a docking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to time warp a little bit. just because I know what I'm doing. Normally you want to do this as slow as possible. Slow, you cannot do better off than slow. Slow is always the best way to do all of this stuff. Okay, so here we are. It looks like we're coming off at a little bit of an angle. So again, point at our target and adjust. Then switch to the other one. Point at our target. And adjust. Here it is. They're slowly coming together now. Point at our target. Adjust. Back to the other one. Point at our target. Here it is. They're slowly coming together. Now you don't want them to slam into each other, so N to take away some of the energy. Slow us down a little bit. And here we are. Getting closer now. Do a little bit of adjusting. And there it is. We have successfully attached to one another. And we are in space, flying fast. And here we are. We've got our orbit speed and we've docked. And that is it, my friends. We have reached the pinnacle that needs to be reached. We have successfully docked in orbit. This is an extremely difficult task to do for the first time. I might make it look simple, but it is extremely difficult and very easy to mess up. Extremely easy to mess up. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and leave these astronauts here for now. And I will return them off camera because, I mean, it's just a regular return flight. If I land somewhere special, I'll gather the science, but you guys know how to gather science like that. I just wanted to show you guys how to do docking. Now, this is going to be, again, as I said before, this is going to be the prerequisite skills to dock to a future mobile processing lab. So we're going to do science in space as opposed to just bringing it back constantly. We're actually going to research some more and get some multipliers. And that'll be in the next episode. We're going to build something that can be powerful enough to actually bring up a mobile processing lab with docking ports and solar panels and everything attached to it. And we're going to bring it up into orbit, fly it over to the moon, and then load it up with some scientists. After we load it up with scientists, then we'll go back and we'll fly up a lander, land it on the moon, pick up some science, go back into orbit, dock with the mobile researching lab, and drop off all of the science. From there, we'll just return the lander because we'll need our pilot back, our scientist pilot back, and we'll leave the scientists to do their research. Once that's happening, we'll then launch another science station around the other moon, Minmus, and do the same thing. So it'll be a couple missions like that, but that's the goal. We want to start multiplying our science because this stuff's starting to get expensive, especially the end of the tree stuff. It's 1,000, and if we're getting something like 600 science per landing on a moon, we're not going to be able to finish this tree with just these moons. And you know, it helps to do a little bit of flights to get more bang for your buck. But anyways, that'll be in a later episode. This has been Nerdy Spaceman. Stay safe and fly far.